between the thing that they have
Okay, so have a party at your house. Yeah. Well, it's been
Good evening, everyone. Congratulations, those of you who made it all the way with me. We're at the last stop of the Art Walk. It's just been truly a joy. And we wanted to thank our sponsors, Euphoria Chocolate Company. It's a good time to get chocolate, you know, February. And also thanks to our media sponsor, Eugene Magazine. So here at our last stop, I have Cindy Durfeld with us and Kelly Roberts to talk about this wonderful exhibition right behind me. Apparently I've been asked to start with you, Kelly. So, can you just tell us a little bit about what you have here, your inspiration, and how this all came together?
Hi, yes. So the work is essentially acrylic on panel or acrylic and paper on panel. Cindy invited me to be in the show, so I went in search of supplies and bought materials to do several pieces. I essentially started, you know, I gessoed and did underdrawings and began painting, and some iterations I wasn't so pleased with. I just worked over them, and a couple of my first pieces were here and then Coos Bay, and then kept working and decided to kind of go into the Northwest theme, and Cindy did hers as well for the Northwest theme as well.
Now, are these spots that you have just depicted so beautifully, were these already picked out ahead of time, or were you did you have like 20 different places you wanted to check out and see if they would work?
So these are actually places that I've visited over the years and snapped photos from, you know, my own vantage point, and had the idea of creating art with them eventually, and they came out this way for this audience.
So they weren't necessarily done on site. It was sort of like these were from photos when you were on
Yes.
site, if you will. Oh, okay, wonderful. All right. Well, Cindy can ask you some questions as well. Can you tell us a little bit about your process? It's so wonderful to see, you know, landscapes done in slightly different ways to get these different viewpoints. So can you tell us about your process to create these landscapes?
How many of you used to go to the First Friday Art Walk when I had my gallery downtown and I sang live? I was supposed to sing live now, but I just got over the thing that's trying to kill Happy Eugene, so I'm not performing, which makes sense because this is first time out, First Friday in 8 years, so it's really nice to see everyone. And little Kelly was my employee and become one of my very best friends, and she's never been in a real show of just her, and I really wanted to show her off because I think she's extremely talented. So those of you that know me and my voice and my gallery, usually I do 4-foot by 5-foot acrylics. And I haven't really been painting a lot. It's a huge devastation losing the gallery, and it's been a long struggle to work through that. I've fallen in love with a beautiful man who's Jeff Hewling, and he's standing right there, the most handsome one in the room. And through that has given me a lot of faith and hope and new inspiration, and so I'm back. My piano man is still alive and well. We rehearse every Wednesday at 4, and we perform at Willamette Oaks. Oftentimes that's in the paper, but this body of work is really something that's happened in the last month. And Christina and Eric, who own Freeman Artworks, I've adopted as my children and love and support them and have tried to help them, giving them all of my clients, and I meet a lot of people here to help with framing, and they're wonderful, beautiful young couple with wonderful, beautiful young children, and please come here to have your framing done because we've got to keep the arts alive. So thank you, Christina. Her mother made all this gorgeous food, and thank you, Cindy, for all of your help. Anyway, these works are really, I will start a little painting thinking of one thing and it just sort of evolves into something else. The only thing that's not Pacific Northwest is this one, and I don't know if any of you knew Anne Marie Malum, who is the founder of Summit Bank. She's a friend of mine. She now lives in San Carlos, Mexico, with her sister. They bought 3 different houses. She hired me to do her and be her interior designer a year ago, and I went down there for a couple weeks, and we spent a lot of time in the bay. And this one is the one that's in Mexico. It's the formations of the rocks and the local people talking about the Santos and that kind of thing. So this kind of came from just remembering that. But all of this is all basically just remembering things. This main one is Mount Bachelor and Sun River and those kind of lakes and things like that. But again, it's not a certain photograph, it's not anything. I just tend to, and it is all watercolor. I've not used gouache, I've not done anything, and whether I paint 4 foot by 5 foot or 4 inch by 6 inch, it somehow has the same effect, and I don't understand why things just sort of happen. But I've made a limited edition of 5 laser reproductions, sort of Giclée-esque, and they're available too that are less expensive, but again, they're only limited editions. So I thank you all for coming, and I really appreciate Christina and Eric for kicking me in the butt to paint some more. And I thank Jeffrey for loving me, and I thank Kelly for just standing next to me through all of my last 11 years. I love you. And thank you all for coming.
So we'll take some questions if anyone would like to ask Kelly or Cindy something about their artwork.
You can ask
Or
one-on-one
we do the
too.
version where you can just come right up and talk to them. So with that, be sure to join us for our next First Friday Art Walk on March 2nd. And it's really been a pleasure being with you guys all. So happy to host this. This is so wonderful, and I look forward to attending many more of these. So enjoy your evening and spend some time enjoying all this wonderful artwork. Thanks, everyone.
I've been here 2 years.
What type of light source?
Before I get too much further, is Kaya around? Is she, there we are. So, if you go to Kaya, you can join a drawing for 2 tickets to the March Eugene Symphony Concert. We're doing this work, Tales of Hemingway, Grammy-winning work, incredible cello concerto. So, be sure to see her and throw your name into the pot to get those tickets. We also want to thank our sponsors for the Art Walk this evening, Euphoria Chocolate Company, right over here. Thank you guys. And also our thanks to our media sponsor, Eugene Magazine. Now we are here to speak with Andrea Ross about her project Apocalypse Carousel.
That's right.
All right. I'm going to just turn it over to you to tell us a little bit about what we're looking at.
Well, that puts me on the spot, doesn't it? These are my felted tapestries. My project is Apocalypse Carousel. It's and we have a lot of challenges we're facing these days, as we're all extremely aware. But life is beautiful, and I think it's very important that we remember to enjoy that and one another while we continue with our initiative to make things better. So that's what my project is about. Oh, hi. Thank you all for coming out. I don't actually make tapestries anymore. It's extremely hard work. Each one takes at least a month to do. It's a lot. I don't know, some of you probably know about felting. It's a very hard work. There's throwing and smashing and rolling and all these things, and I'm getting older. So I have moved into painting and printmaking, and I have some prints up there, and there's a sculpture which I think that's the black horse, right? The second horse of the apocalypse. The actual tapestry is over there on the wall of the Apocalypse Carousel. When I envisioned that project about 10 years ago, I started drawing. I don't draw horses, right? So it looked like the 4 poodles of the apocalypse. And my boyfriend said, well, that's great. And I was like, no, I'm trying to be scary. But anyway, we did end up making a zine of the 4 poodles of the apocalypse. So that's here, based on my standard poodle. And I did get my horses okay. So this is cutting out a little bit. What else? Oh, and I am teaching a marionette class at Lincoln Gallery in March. So we're making marionettes. If anybody's interested, Jamie was going to bring some cards, but I don't think she's here. So check it out. And once again, thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. I actually have a quick question, just because when I grew up, I was doing felting projects, not on this level, of course, but it's this amazing process where you start with so much wool. I mean, just it can be like a 4-foot-high stack, and then you put it in water, and it becomes that thin, and then it's this whole process to make it kind of blend together and create what you have there. But then of course you take it to this level where you have these figures, and of course there's obviously some kind of needlework that's involved in that. Can you talk about kind of the process and maybe even how long it takes to do something like this?
Sure. Let me, if anybody wants to grab my card, there's a link to the website where there's an interview of me making a tapestry, making the Apocalypse Carousel tapestry, actually. So you can see the process. Basically, this one's made of my poodle, so that's hers, but I often start with a piece of cloth, and then you lay out fiber in one direction, and you lay out fiber in another direction, and you're thinking about the colors and how they're going to show through, and then you lay out fiber in another direction, and then if you want crackles, then you hide painter's tape in there, and then you put more layers on top, and more layers, and then you soap it up, and you roll it, and you rub it, and you throw it, and you squish it in hot water, and you throw it again, and it goes on for quite a time. And then you try to find, I hear somebody's timer, then you try to find the tape. And it's real scary, but if you find it, and you cut the fiber, and you get the crackles. And then I needle felt whatever I want to put on top of it. Bead if I want to bead. I learned to bead for that one, so that one got bead too. Good.
Was this medium some kind of is this what you started with, or were you like a painter and then you thought this was an interesting way of, I don't know, I'm just really curious, because not every day you end up in a gallery exhibiting this kind of work.
That's true. I started embroidering when I was a little girl, so we're generations of artists in my family. My daughter's an artist, my mother's an artist, my grandmother was an artist, and her mother. So on the distaff side, we have a lot of art going on. Painting and fiber and embroidery and knitting and all those things. All the fun stuff, right? Yeah.
Well, we'll take some questions if you want to. Yes.
Did you paint those figures on there, or how do you get the different colors?
Okay, let me show you. So I laid different colors of fiber, and then, if you can see, I took little fibers and stabbed them through with a barbed needle to draw a picture. Same thing here. And you're welcome to touch these. I don't care. It's not like don't touch. I hate don't touch. Anyway, you can always touch. It's allowed. So that's how I do that.
So they're all different. You laid blue, and then you laid yellow. And
Yellow's underneath, and this one has red under here, and then I put yellow, and then I put the tape in there, and then I put blue in there. The Apocalypse Carousel is an interesting story, because they came to interview me and film me making it, and so I laid out all the fluff, and this is my signature project. And then they want to do the interview, so I said, okay, grab the 2 edges, and we'll move it into the other room. and the fellow went like this, and it all fell in the middle. And I was like, oh my gosh. But whatever, the show goes on. And so I tried to, after they left, it's about 5 hours, I was pretty tired. I tried to like lay it back, and then the cat jumped up on the table and it fell on the floor. So there's some serendipity in that piece, but I think it worked.
Any more questions? Yeah.
What is the sculptures called?
Okay, so
The questions about the sculptures?
yeah. So that's a horse I got at St. Vinny's, and the wings have felting on it, but it's a stick that I took from my friend's dog because it was really amazing. I felt really bad, but he let me, so I took it. And it's a chess piece, is the rider, and has some feathers, the found stuff, right? A necklace that I had, and I took some locks and glued them on, so it's multimedia. Yeah, and a lot of fun paint, right?
Well, we'll give you some time to enjoy some chocolate and enjoy the wonderful artwork. Andrea, thank you so much for talking with us. All right, everyone, take some time and we'll see you at stop number 3.
I do have a question.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Oh, appreciate that.
Setup. Should be quick, but this piece was written by a Serbian composer. His name is Nebojša Zivkovic, and he's one of the most prolific percussion composers right now. He's written a lot of stuff, a lot of folk music actually. He writes a lot of marimba music, but he's also into tribal stuff. The piece that we're going to do for you now is very tribal sounding. In fact, I think that he writes it's supposed to be wildly ritualistic. And it's for 3 players. It's called Trio per Uno, and they all share a bass drum in the middle, and they'll all be playing the bass drum sometimes at the same time, sometimes at different times, and it really sounds like it's just one player playing the bass drum. And they all have the same instruments around the bass drum. They all have a couple of gongs that are muted, and bongos, and sometimes they play, well, there's a little bit of improvisation towards the end, and I think that you'll agree it's very, very tribal. So this is Trio per Uno by Nebojša Zivkovic.
Yanis Xenakis, called Ray Ball B. Xenakis is an architect and a mathematician, as well as a composer, and he's known for incorporating complex mathematical formula into his music. In this piece, he uses a relatively simple sequence of numbers known as the Fibonacci sequence. The next number in the sequence is gained by adding the previous number. So the sequence goes 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, etc. And he uses this to structure the piece. So I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.
looks like it might come up. Okay, it's going to work. Okay.
Well, you know.
Good. That's coming up.
It takes a bit. It's not like instant on, is it?
No, it's in 1980s. Yeah. So we got the World Trade Center coming up.
Mm-hmm.
The plane flies right through the World Trade, right between the World Trade Center. I'll hang them up. Hi, my name is Steve Lurichia from the New Zone Gallery. I'd like to welcome you to the 4th Annual Zone for All Show, which is an open, non-juried exhibition sponsored by the New Zone Gallery through the month of April. One piece in particular we have here is a piece that I produced. It is Wozniak's Conundrum. This is a grafting of a 1980s Macintosh classic computer onto a 1897 Remington Model 7 standard typewriter. To make that work, I had to build a copper tubing framework, which I call the interface, where the Macintosh computer panels and circuit boards are attached to that copper tubing, and then that interface is attached to the typewriter into a working computer. So this is a fully working Macintosh computer working on the OS 7.5 operating system. A couple of unique things about this assemblage is we have a Morse code telegraph key, which has been converted into a mouse, and we can move things around, and we can bring up this file right here. We have a flight simulator right here. It is also steam powered, which can run the ribbon return. Come on, there it is. Okay. We have also a 56K external modem for online operations, and the way to make this work is we have to crank it up, and that will come up, dial in your number, and we can go online. So as you see right now, we have the flight simulator that's come up. This is an early model, early version of a flight simulator, which came out in the 80s. All the programs on this computer are from the 80s. This apparatus will do word processing, spreadsheets like Excel, play games like Tetris, flight simulator, and many other things. So it is a cool machine. We have some vacuum tubes here that will come on. We have a pump to pressurize the system, and there's a gauge to let us know what the pressure is. Oh, also, since this is a fully operational computer, I had to make some changes in the keyboard. Since there's only 43 keys on the original typewriter, I had to make some changes. So there are some mechanical controls on the computer. This control, which I forgot what I controlled on the typewriter, it's hooked to a micro switch. This will be the, I believe, the option key. Then we have another mechanical control, which is hooked to a micro switch. That's the control key. We have the Apple key right there. And of course, we have all the bells and whistles along with the Apple key and a whistle on the steam engine. We have, I forgot which one this was controlled. I think it's the control key, I believe, for this. I have to go back to my little cheat sheet there. And then we have caps lock. Now on the original typewriter this was the caps lock, but for the computer this will be caps lock. And then for return, I use the return on the typewriter for return. So you have some of the familiarities of the typewriter along with the computer. I also had to change some of the keys around. There is no delete, so I had to, when I wired this up, I did make delete. We do have @ There was no number 0 on the typewriter, you use the O. However, I had to use the L for the number 1 because I just didn't have enough keys. The way the interface for the keyboard works, underneath the typewriter there is a bracket so long that's fitted underneath the typewriter that has 45 micro switches that control your computer commands. And the keyboard circuit board is mounted underneath. I had to cut that in half so it fit under there and have a lot of reworking. It took me about 3 months to build this project, and about a month of that was just troubleshooting. So there's a lot of tweaks to this. I have little bugs to this that I'm still working on, but eventually I'll get it all together. Originally, this was going to be a static piece, meaning it wasn't going to do anything, just be this computer parts on this typewriter. And when I got into building it, I thought it out that I could make this into a working computer. So that's why it took me a little bit longer. But I've come up with every Apple error I believe there is to try and figure out how this works, and it seems to be working fine, but there's no guarantees. So I give you the 30-second or 30-foot guarantee.
Yeah,
So I do have. I'll show you.
Regular one, huh?
I'll show you what I do have. I do have my backup keyboard, which does work just fine. So we can. I do have a.
I'll even get a few keys working.
Yeah, I have. I do have my backup keyboard. But what I do.
Setup. Should be quick, but this piece was written by a Serbian composer. His name is Nebojša Zivkovic, and he's one of the most prolific percussion composers right now. He's written a lot of stuff, a lot of folk music actually. He writes a lot of marimba music, but he's also into tribal stuff. The piece that we're going to do for you now is very tribal sounding. In fact, I think that he writes it's supposed to be wildly ritualistic. And it's for 3 players. It's called Trio per Uno, and they all share a bass drum in the middle, and they'll all be playing the bass drum sometimes at the same time, sometimes at different times, and it really sounds like it's just one player playing the bass drum. And they all have the same instruments around the bass drum. They all have a couple of gongs that are muted and bongos, and sometimes they play, well, there's a little bit of improvisation towards the end, and I think that you'll agree it's very, very tribal. So this is Trio per Uno by Nebojša Zivkovic.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. Most of these are painted either on location or from amazing. This is
I've been there.
We were just talking about like volunteers. This is our favorite
Stop number 5, we want to thank our sponsor, Eugene Magazine. And this is a group show with art created by 6 out of the 7 employees who work at Oregon Art Supply. And and it's really cool stuff, lots of different media. I was trying to come up with what the theme is for the show, and I really do think that they captured it when they said it's the connection between all of the artists here is that they all work here, and that's the common thread. So all of the work is really different and distinct, and I think I want to start actually with Shannon's work. Shannon, would you come up? So I really love these, and I understand that they were inspired by your walk to work.
Yes.
So could you tell us a little bit about them?
Sure. Yeah, well, okay. Well, I walk here every day and walk home, and my most favorite parts of the day are in the morning and in the evening at dusk. The buildings of Eugene, I'm a fairly new resident of Eugene, and I'm very fascinated by the architecture and the light and the structure of all the buildings, not just in the downtown district, but also in the residential areas that I absolutely love it. It's just one of my favorite things, and I take a lot of photos, and these are my favorite that I took. And unfortunately, the one on the far right on the top is actually Baker City, Oregon.
Oh, okay.
It's not Eugene. I stopped there on a trip I had just recently, and it's my favorite place in Oregon, and the hotel I stayed at, so I had to capture it.
Awesome.
Yeah, so they're all watercolor on paper mounted to panel, and yeah.
That really explains it, because I was looking at these and I was like, I know where that one is.
Yeah.
I know where that one is.
Where
is that one?
Yeah.
Now I understand.
Yeah. Okay.
Is there anything else that you would like to tell the group about your process or what inspires you?
Well, just the general, I'm really into design work and architecture, and that's pretty much been fascinating me to do these pieces. But yeah, that's pretty much it, yeah.
Thanks, Shannon.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Jordan, can I have you come up next?
Yeah.
So Jordan's work is over here. The tidbit that I heard about you is that you paint every day.
I certainly try to. Not necessarily, but yeah, these are works mostly, based around the Oregon area. mostly west from here and along the coast. I typically try to go hiking every week or two, and I take a lot of reference photos while I'm out hiking. I also paint on location when I get the chance, which is not nearly as much as I want to, but it's hard, so I do every now and then. You can actually, if you look closely in the Washburn sand painting over there, you can actually see grains of sand in there, because it was a very windy day, and sand does tend to get caught in plein air paintings. So there's that. And yeah, I do a lot of smaller studies like this on at least a weekly basis, if not a daily basis, and they influence a lot of the larger works I do. I do natural history and fantasy illustration work as well, so all of my landscape work feeds into that, and it all goes back and forth. So,
cool.
Yeah.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Clayton, can we talk about your work a little bit?
Yeah.
So Clayton's work is the paper scenes, kind of cutouts, and they've got a lot of layers, a really distinctive illustrative style. So could you tell us a little bit about what we're seeing?
Okay, hello. They're mostly ideas. Hello. Okay, the ideas are about the internet and how connected people are now, and the different types of relationships you can have and know people that you've never actually met in real life, and kind of also the idea of all kinds of different stuff that people do with their hands. Yeah. There's no color because I wanted them to look like machines. Yeah. That's pretty much it.
And something that I was wondering about with a lot of the artists here is, do you get inspired by all the materials that are around you here in the shop?
The opposite happens, actually.
Yeah.
Yes. I talk a lot about paint all day and color and stuff, and so when I go do my own art, I don't use any of that. So.
Thanks, Clayton. Okay, Megan. So Megan's work is on the end here, and it's wood cuts, and there's some lino cuts, a lot of natural elements that are represented. Do you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, sure. So pretty much all of my work focuses on natural processes and relationships in the environment. And I always kind of think if I wasn't an artist, I would be a scientist. So I kind of try and merge that a lot, and that's something I think about a lot when I'm making art.
Well, thank you for sharing it with us. It's lovely.
Thanks very much.
And let's call up now Lindsay.
Is this gonna work? Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your piece over here.
Well, I haven't made art in a while. And this is imagery I've used before for a completely different project. And I just found it kind of perfectly suited to express some ideas that I've been researching and reading about and meditating on for the past year about how our egos kind of define our decision making, and how when we kind of blindly move through life just clawing upwards from forces that we don't either understand or acknowledge, we end up just kind of causing unspeakable destruction to each other and to ourselves and to our planet. And most shamefully, I feel like we create categories of people, in order to control and destroy them. And as grim as all that sounds, I find that the solutions to these problems are pretty simple and easy and liberating. And I'd be happy to talk about it more with any of you afterwards. But yeah, that's what was on my mind when I made that. And just a side note, I just want to say that Bring Recycling is an excellent place to go for art supplies. Because I saw those drill bits and I just knew that I had to do something with them, and it ended up being perfectly incorporated. So yeah.
Did the window frame also come from Bring?
It did. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
thank you so much.
And Laura. All right, and Laura's pieces are the two cut paper and pastel, is that right?
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about those. So I moved here about 2 years ago, and ever since I've moved here, I've kind of been like on a journey. There's a lot of like spirituality happening here, and I've really picked up on that, and so that sort of led me to do some research about like mythology and premonition and stuff like that, which is what I'm really interested in right now is symbols of myth and superstition, and these two pieces here, both of them are kind of they both represent good and bad things. So like a snake, if you see it, a lot of times it's represents something bad, but in a lot of cultures it's actually a symbol of creation, and like the ladder is a symbol of bad luck, but it's also like helps us do the work that we do. So those would be the two inspirations.
Cool. Thank you so much. All right, let's thank you to all the artists here at Oregon Art Supply. Awesome. And everybody will be here for questions one-on-one. So, thanks.
Can I just say real quick, thank you to Clayton for organizing this whole thing and creating us like the cast that we are.
This is the first staff show at Oregon Art Supply.
With
this group?
Yeah,
Okay.
That was like years
Awesome.
ago.
Yeah. Cool.
Different group of folks, yeah.
It's great to see all of the creativity coming out. So thank you guys for sharing with us.
Thank you.
I was driving.